So welcome to a special edition of All Sports Tucson Talk. I'm here with Javier Morales. We are back at Windsor Broadway in a new private room. This might be perfect for just, one-on-one combos or just us three. Usually Andy's here, but I like this room.
Yeah, first day that Windsor Broadway is open since the pandemic shut everything down. So we thought we'd come out here and support our good friend JJ, the owner. He's a sponsor of ours. I came here a lot during the pandemic when things were shut down. I only got carry out every Wednesday. So still trying to support them as much as I can. All the local businesses have been struggling because of what's been going on. So any way we can help, it's now open. You guys can come in and eat in here. They haven't shut off where there's like a curtain that separates the dining areas, and they're not seating anybody right next to each other. So if you're concerned about that, they're dealing with that, and they're doing a really good job of it too. We were at the bar, we had to sit far apart, kind of like we're a little bit closer now, but we have our masks on. But yeah, it's good to be back, and I can't wait to be back for the football season, for high school football, and all that to come back, hopefully.
Yeah. It's been a long couple months, but it seems like things are starting maybe to go back to normal a little bit, but we'll see how things go. But for right now, Wednesday we have the MLB draft coming up and a few interesting prospects to look at that have connections to Tucson, not only Arizona, but playing at Cienega. Go ahead and start us off with that. By the way, the MLB draft takes place on Wednesday.
I believe Wednesday, I think it's the first or second round, first two rounds, and then Thursday's the other 3 rounds. Actually, I think it's the first round Wednesday, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on Thursday. So we're going to see most likely Nick Gonzalez go. That's be a no-brainer. He's going to be one of the top 5 picks. Right now, he's slated to go number 5 in all the draft projections that I've seen. That means the Blue Jays will probably get him at that spot. And it's for he's got a guaranteed money of more than $6 million at that spot.
Not bad for a guy who was a walk-on at New Mexico State.
Yes, he started out, nobody recruited him. Arizona didn't recruit him. He was a local kid, Cienega High School. And he went to, from what I understand, he went to New Mexico State because he knew a couple guys that went there. And he had a chip on his shoulder. Nobody thought he could be a Division I baseball player. I'm sure he had chances at JC level, but he wanted to prove that he could play at D1, and he certainly did. One of the most impressive power hitters that college baseball's had the last 2 years, not just this year.
And you know what's scary about that, because he does play the middle infield position.
Second base.
Second base. You don't see a lot of second basemen with pop in the MLB. And you take a look at the stats this past season, 14 home runs in 15 games, 16 games. I don't remember the game total.
He had one game where he had 4 home runs, and I think he had another game he had 3 home runs, and then a couple of games that he had 2 home runs in. Mm-hmm. That's just impressive. That just shows you what kind of bat speed he has, the power. Mm-hmm. He's a good fielder. A power hitting second baseman is going to be high on anybody's list. Yeah. So. He's projected to go number 5. He might go higher. Who knows? If he does, it goes. I think it goes up to like $8 million, up to the number 1 spot. So
yeah, you never know how these drafts work. You see it in the NFL draft, NBA draft. Same with the MLB draft. You see high prospects, go really low that you thought would go top 5. And then you see guys that you didn't think would be first-round picks go in the top 10. So it'll be interesting to see where Nick Gonzalez goes, but best of luck to him. And that kid's got a bright future ahead of him. I mean, either way you look at it.
Yeah, what impressed me about him is not only his baseball skills, but he's got the story of coming from an unknown prospect to now a top 5 pick. And he's got a great personality. Was raised really well by his parents. Went to Cienega High School, like I said. Great personality. I talked to Brian Hugh. He was the director of the Baseball's Next Level, which Nick was part of that helped his development. And he said that he would be the last guy in the dugout cleaning up the bats, cleaning up trash that might be in the dugouts. he gets it. Nick Gonzalez gets it, and he's going to be prosperous for the way he is.
And you know what it takes in the MLB is when you're working at any level is willing to put in the work, and obviously Nick has been willing to put in the work, and that's going to carry over big time for him in the pros. You see a lot of prospects, they get drafted, they think they're all that. You spend a couple years in the minor league system, and all of a sudden they're gone. If you're willing to put in the work, you're going to make it to the pros, to the major leagues.
Yeah, and he puts in the work. He does a lot of. He works every day in the batting cage. I heard the interview he had with Steve and Jay on behind the ball. And he's in Las Cruces most of the summer, and he's at a friend's place that has a batting cage. So that he's woke up, hit, eat lunch, hit. Went to eat dinner and hit. Because what else would he do during the quarantine? So he's been working a lot on his hitting. What I had, and I asked Jesse Harper this during our Zoom conference. Okay, you're working on your swing and all that, but what about the fielding? What about being on the field and all that? So it's really putting the clamps on some of these players that their regular workout routine is not there. So it's going to be interesting to see how some of them respond or come back into play shape.
And I don't know if it's the same for the MLB, but I'm pretty sure it is. But like NBA, NFL, if a team's going to draft you, you go through so many meetings, interviews, the draft process. You have those interviews. I'm assuming all those are Zoom calls for right now, Nick. And it's even though it's Zoom and you're seeing them face to face, it's a lot different than actually sitting down and talking to somebody.
Well, yeah, but they could sense just by talking to him what kind of a kid he is. He's not one of these kids that's going to be hard to deal with. He's been told to do things twice, so he doesn't have an ego about him. So I think they could probably pick that up just talking to him on the phone.
Yeah.
So he's got a great future, and Austin Wells is also a probable first round pick out from Arizona. I covered his dad, Greg Wells, when he played at the U of A in the early 90s. Greg Wells was a great guy. He played on that 92 team that came one game away from College World Series. They lost at Oklahoma State. And Arizona had the lead of that game, and I was getting ready to go to Omaha for the first time. I was getting excited. Who would want to go cover the College World Series? Oklahoma State just rallied late, and that was like a tough one for Arizona. He was on that team, with Willie Morales and Robbie Moen, John T-Jack. There was this hitter after hitter, Billy Owens, I think, was on that team, if not the before that. It's just a great hitting team, and he was part of that. He wasn't one of the top hitters on the team, but he was a good player. He must have done a really good job raising Austin, because Austin's talents are so much better than Greg's. And I hope to talk to Greg probably tomorrow. We'll see. But he was one of those all-time good guys on the team. But really, he was approachable and nice guy. And I'm sure Austin's the same way. I haven't had a chance to interview Austin, but I'm sure he's the same way.
And for Austin, when you think about the catcher position in the MLB, you get a lot of defensive first catchers, which he is a good defensive catcher. But you don't see a lot of guys who hop and guys that can drive in runs at the catcher position because you're on your knees all game. It takes a toll on you. Austin can hit 2 home runs this year in the shortened season, 7 his freshman year, but 60 plus RBIs. This year he only had 14 in a shortened season, but he was hitting 375 to start the year. He was on pace to have a better season than his first year at Arizona.
And that's saying something because he had like a All-American freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wish that things could have went differently, where we could have saw him play a little bit more for Arizona. We were kind of robbed of that. He played freshman year, and then this year we hardly saw him play. And I guess he's eligible for the MLB draft after only 2 years because of his age. So there's no chance he's coming back to Arizona if he's picking the first round. So we've pretty much seen the last of Austin Wells in a Wildcat uniform. But it'd be something to look forward to maybe in like 2-3 years to see him in the major leagues. Because like you said, he is a catcher and he's a power hitting catcher. Very, very skilled as a catcher too. He knows how to call a game. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he elevates through the minor leagues and gets to the major leagues, because he will. He's got such good skills overall.
I think one of the impressive things about Austin is that when you see a lot of catchers across the country, you think of, big burly guys that really don't move that well. This Austin's athletic. Austin's one of the most athletic players on campus in terms of just an athletic department. The kid can move and shows off his athleticism behind the plate. If you want a perfect MLB catcher, it's one that can pounce right out of the crouch and get to the balls that, in foul territory that not a lot of people can do. He's that type of guy. I think even though we rave about his offense, he's still a great defensive catcher, and that's a big theme in the MLB.
Yeah, if he wasn't a good defensive catcher, he wouldn't be as rated as high.
No.
So he has to be in the first round. You have to have everything. You can't have like big question marks. He doesn't have big question marks. He actually has promise across the board. So, he grew up in a baseball family and an athletic family. His mom was a gymnast at Arizona. His dad was a baseball player, and I'm sure his dad raised him to be a baseball player, and it shows. And I've read stories about his character, and he doesn't complain, he doesn't make a big deal about stuff, and that's huge. That when you listen to the coach and you're trained and you do what you're supposed to be doing, good things happen. Look at Nick and look at Austin. They fit that mold.
And I think that's one of the most underrated things in sports. People don't talk about it enough. Is going out there every day, doing what you're supposed to be doing, raising people to be better than they can be, lifting your teammates up and whatnot. And those are two perfect examples. If you do the little things and you do them the best of your ability, you're going to make it to whatever level you want to make it to. It's just the time, the effort, and really the patience and perseverance that you put into it. And these guys demonstrate that.
Exactly, yeah, both of them have, and it's going to be fun to watch the draft on Wednesday, because both those guys will be going to the first round. You would think Austin's kind of close to the bottom of the first round, but everything I've seen has them in that 25 to 30 range, which looks good for him to be in the first round. And even if he goes to the second round, it's not as good money, but it's still so high. So yeah.
You're in the big leagues, well, minor leagues, but you made it and you have your chance. So if you get drafted, that's all you can ask for, really.
Yeah, and then there was not too many local products that were draft possibles or draft prospects. The only one that I saw on the MLB site was Ian Mejia of Pima, a pitcher. ASU had 6 players in the top 200, with the number 1 Spencer Torkelson at first base. He's the projected number 1 pick overall. But ASU must have really hated that this season got called, because they had 6 guys in the top 200. You're probably going to see a lot of their names called in the draft.
If the season wasn't called, you look across the Pac-12 landscape, this might have been one of the best seasons that the Pac-12's seen in a while. ASU was loaded, UCLA is always loaded, Stanford's always loaded. Oregon State's in a little bit of a rebuilding time with their coach retiring. Arizona had some amazing talent. Their question always was, can they get the pitching? They bring in the Oregon State pitching coach after 16 years in Corvallis. And Washington, I believe, 2 years ago made the NCAA tournament, or last season. So you had a lot of storylines going into this season, and unfortunately we just didn't get to see it play out, but there's going to be a lot of Pac-12 talent throughout that whole entire first round.
Well, yeah, and then Arizona, the coach, Johnson, right?
Yeah.
He was saying that Arizona, he felt some good things about Arizona. Yeah. That they didn't start out too strong, but he felt like the chemistry was there, the pitching was coming around. So it's going to be interesting next year, because with only 5 rounds, they're going to have a lot of people coming back. They're not going to have people leaving to the draft. Even high school prospects coming in, they're not going to be going to the MLB. So it's going to be interesting to see how that talent meshes together with the newcomers. Just like the softball team, it's going to be.
Yeah.
I think in that case it's a little bit different, because you got such a senior-dominated class that's talented that you're not going to run into chemistry problems.
No.
And everybody knows how good they are, and who's who, and stuff like that. Baseball's a different story. Not everybody knows about the talent that Arizona's baseball team has, except for the coaches and some of the players there. But some of the newcomers, we'll see how that goes. Where some of the guys coming back, that would have gone to the draft, how that all correlates into one cohesive team. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I'm sure after the draft, not only at Arizona, but across the country, you're going to see a lot of pieces moving. Kind of like you did in softball when the announcement was made that seniors were coming back. You know, it's only natural that you're going to see a lot of transfers, maybe not in Arizona, but across the country. With your recruiting classes coming in, players that thought they were going to get some playing time, but all of a sudden the seniors back. So it'll be interesting to see after Thursday how the landscape of college baseball is.
Yeah, it's one of those things where not too many people at Tucson know about the U of A baseball team. They know a lot about the softball team. So that in itself was like really a dagger to the baseball program because they've missed the playoffs the last 2 years. Johnson thought they were going to get it going this year, and then season got snuffed out. So now it's going to be okay. Next year, if you're getting these guys that weren't drafted, then show us that you can get to the postseason.
Yeah.
So it's a show. It's going to be a show me team next year for that, especially when they're going to see all these people talking about the softball team. And I know they're all about U of A, and I hope every team does well. But I'm sure when you're playing at the same time, and you're like, hey, what about us? We're doing well. So it's going to be interesting to see how the baseball team responds to some of these question marks. If they were going to be good this year, then they should be good next year. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and a lot of their games intertwine, like you said. You know, Friday night, you have a game at Hillenbrand, you have a game at High Corbett. Pick which one you want to go to, and we'll see how that plays out next year.
Exactly.
So I think we should move towards. You want to talk Arizona softball?
Yeah, just you've done a lot of stories on the freshmen that are coming in. So I don't think I've seen pretty much anything else, but from anywhere about these kids, except for Carly Scoopin. A lot of people in Tucson knows about her. But just what your thoughts are on talking to some of these young players that are coming in that a lot of people are expecting a lot of.
The one word that comes to mind when I think about them coming in is competitive. This group is just, when you think about a competitive softball player, that's the whole entire group. There isn't one single girl there that, you question their competitive level, and that speaks to not only them, but what kind of players Coach Condrea recruits, and I think that's the formula that you've seen here at Arizona for 30 plus years since Coach Condrea has been here. But talking to each girl, they have their own personalities, but they're a competitive unit. They all get along. They're, texting each other every day, seeing what they're doing, and I think one thing that I've learned, it's important for a recruiting class coming in to be close-knit like this group, because they know each other very well. They know what to expect from each other. So you're already building that chemistry before you even step foot on campus.
So, with your interviews, so who have you been impressed with? Obviously, all clubs, they sound like they interview well, but
oh yeah.
What are your thoughts about who you're most impressed with?
Well, the one player that I think I'm most impressed with is probably Carly Scoopin. Just by numbers and how she carried herself in the they all carried themselves well, but you just look at the height, the power, the ability to play defense at first. She's going to start right away. So in terms of a playing standpoint, she impresses me right away. But in terms of an interview, I don't think I've ever had a better interview than Juliet Kensoyanopoulos. I told her I'm going to get that name right. Huh?
Does she have a nickname?
Her nickname's G. So
okay, let's
call her G. But what an interview! You get a lot of freshmen or recruits that you interview and they're all nervous or shy. Not G, not at all. When you ask her to describe the program, she describes the senior class as straight ballers and the goats. That's hysterical. That's stuff that you want to see, and it's not cockiness. It's just letting your personality be known, and I think she's going to fit in right at home with Arizona. She kind of reminds me of Alyssa Palomino a little bit in her personality. And I've noticed through these interviews, a couple of them remind me of players today, so it's kind of like Condrea is getting ready to fill those voids with players that are similar and can fill those roles and step right in and perform. I still have 2 more to go, which is the Carroll twins up in Phoenix. I'm going to reach out to them. do a dual interview, so I'm excited to wrap this up and excited to finish it off with them. But I mean, it's been quite the experience.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how these young players, all of them most of them have committed to Arizona for like 4 years now. So and they've kept up on their commitment, and they've gotten better and better. So it's an interesting dynamic of most of them doing that, and then just how they're going to react to being on the bench. Some of them, because there's so many players ahead of them. I think the fact that they have such respect for Candrea and the program, that it's not going to be just like anybody coming in that just, was recruited by Arizona last year. There's a different dynamic. These kids have grown up loving Arizona, really. So if they have to sit, they're not going to be as upset or questioning as opposed to a player that just got started recruiting last year. So I think he's got the right mix of players, and it's not going to matter that they have more than 20 players on them.
No, and to be honest, we've seen a lot of transfers out of the program. And nothing against those girls. Ivy Davis was a phenomenal player last season for Arizona. Filled in at first very well. Marissa Schultz was starting to hit at the VP position. But when you have those group of seniors coming back, you have the #1 recruiting class in the country coming in. Playing time was going to be at a premium. And it was time to go find, if you wanted to play, it was time to go find that spot. But just like you said, the respect that the incoming freshmen have for the program is second to none. And one thing that kind of shocked me, but it's like, no, that's how recruiting works, so it shouldn't shock me or you, is that a lot of them had ties to the program before they were even recruited by Arizona. I believe it was Jasmine Perez-Chica. Her slap coach was Caitlin Lowe back when she was an 8-year-old. She was, learning how to slap it with Caitlin Lowe. G went to Jenny Finch's camps and was also her AAU coach or travel ball coach was Tony Mesoraca, who, her niece is at Arizona, Alyssa Palomino. So, you have these connections with the program either through family, like Devin Ness's case, her father went to the U of A, her brother goes to the U of A. So it's a real close-knit family, and I think that's what Candrea tries to build in a program, is that family atmosphere, because I think that's the only way you're going to win a Division I softball.
Yeah, and he knows how to build it.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Famer, and the players look at him like God, and they're all gonna fit into their roles next year. It's not going to be an issue. I know there's, like I said, there's been like 6 or 7 players that have transferred, probably because he's been honest with them.
Yeah.
Or he has been honest with them. He's like, hey, we have so many players that can play. It might be in your best interest if you want to play right away to see if you can transfer, or you can try to see what happens. And I'm sure he's addressed every player like that, which is very respectful, instead of just playing mind games, which he would never do.
No, like you said, I think he was up front and honest with them, and he obviously cares about these girls. Carly Campbell, who just transferred to Syracuse, every time you talk to Coach Candrea about Carly, he would call her his pit bull, because she would work so hard and fight through the grind and grind it out, that he said if she had that much more speed, she'd be an All-American player. So I mean, he cares about these girls, but when you have that much talent coming in, you got to be honest and open, and not create false hope, because that's when chemistry issues started rising. And give it up to Coach Candrea for just being straightforward with them, like he usually is.
Yeah, so I mean, look at, it's in June and we're talking about U of A softball, and you're not playing in the World Series, so we're still talking about it. So
118 days until fall ball.
Oh my God! let's hope that is.
Yeah, exactly.
But well, speaking of fall, let's talk about the high school football season really quick. I mean, I've talked to a number of people that are skeptical about it starting on time. I think the first game is August 20th. Which is the Marana Mountain View games, the Marana versus Marana Mountain View games. And that is, when you think about it, what is it, June 6th, 7th?
8th.
I don't know what day it is. They don't really-
It all
June
mixes.
So you have 22 days left in June, you have 31 in July, so you have what, 53 plus 7 and 20, 73 days until kickoff. And that's kickoff. You generally need about at least 3 to 4 weeks of preparation. So you're looking at about 40 days till football's supposed to start. And
Yeah.
with the numbers increasing lately and spiking, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see if it's going to start on time. I hope to God the numbers start reversing, but they're going the wrong way. But we'll see what happens. But the first game is at Marana Mountain View game, the boot game, and that's the first time they've been playing in 6 years for a reason. My brother Andy, by the way, he can't be here. He's got some health issues that he has to address. He's got an appointment Thursday, so he can't be here on opening day, or reopening day, I guess you should call it, before he's over Broadway. But hope Andy's, does well this week and comes out fine. I'm sure he will. But we'll keep praying for him. Hope and our thoughts will be with him. But he mentioned that the Marana Mountain View game, they haven't played in 6 years because Mountain View destroyed them the last time. It was like 54-2, and I guess there was some upset people in the stands. So they never came together to play again for 6 years. And then you look at, there's cases where like Amphi doesn't play CDO.
Yeah.
There might be disparity there. Nobody comes out and says it, but there might be a disparity. That's why it's not scheduled. Saudita does not schedule Walden Grove. Again, there might be disparity, so they don't want to cause any friction or any bad feelings. So for Marana and Mountain View to play each other this time around, if it's not a close game, then they got to understand that, hey, the rivalry and sportsmanship is more important than a game. More important. Sorry, what did you say?
Well, no, another game that we're not going to actually see this year is Tucson High and Pueblo. Usually you see that, and Pueblo new coaching staff, so I'm sure they're getting things the way they want it, but that's one game that everybody loves to see.
Well, it's a rivalry. It's like it's not the rivalry nowadays, but it used to be the biggest rivalry in Tucson back in like the 50s and 60s. That was like the biggest rivalry around. And there's still a lot of people that look at it that way, some of the old timers. I interviewed Don Bacon for the Tucson Treasures story a couple weeks ago. Tucson High great, and he still talks about Pueblo being the rival. So it's too bad that they're not playing each other. A lot of it has to do with Tucson being a 6A team, and then they just restructured the region, so it just didn't work out that Pueblo plays Tucson High.
So, what games are you looking forward to this season?
A lot of them. I'm just hoping they're played. If the season does not start on time, then a lot of these games aren't going to be played. It's probably just going to be region games that usually start in the second half of the season around the end of September. So we'll see. But there's the one that, and I know you know all about this, the South Ironwood Ridge game on September 11th, because you got the dynamic of the two brothers going at each other, right? The Pelletier brothers.
The twins.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the Pelletier twins, Peyton and Parker. They both actually played at South Point for a long period of time, played JV there. Their mom, Kelly, went to South Point, so South Point is in that family's blood. And Peyton, with playing time and just, wanting to be more comfortable, transferred out to Ironwood Ridge, and is probably going to be, if the season is played, get a chance to be the starting quarterback out there for the Nighthawks. And Parker, most likely, with everybody leaving, and I think they have, 8-7